Hey everyone, welcome or welcome back to the channel. My name's Justin and this is Dad Discovers, where I'm learning about the world through YouTube. Today we're looking at another video in Australia. This one is 9 things Australians secretly judge you for. Let's go ahead and jump right into it and see what she's got to say.
Australians are famous for being relaxed and easygoing, but that doesn't mean they're not paying attention. There are small unspoken things they'll notice, and sometimes quietly judge you for. They might
I feel
never
like
say
everybody
it out
does this.
loud, but trust me, it's there. And what I'm talking about is not necessarily big cultural mistakes, and no one's going to stop being friends with you over them. But these are little things that can make you stand out and not in the right way. And the more you pick up on these cues, the easier it is to blend in and feel at home. Okay, let's
Yeah,
start
I
off.
feel like this is everywhere. People are secretly judging you, but especially if you're going to a different country or to a different culture, and especially if you're not respecting the culture. I know I see stories all the time on YouTube and on the internet about people traveling abroad and they just don't respect whatever culture, whatever country they're going to see, and they want to do things, their home way, the way they do things where they live, which is just, I don't know, it's mind blowing to me because if you want to do things the way you do at home, why travel? I don't know.
With the first thing Aussies may judge you for, not saying thank you to drivers. When you're here in Australia, if a driver stops to let you cross a road or lets you merge into traffic, a little wave
Yeah,
or a nod is expected.
yeah,
Or
I
if
do
you're
that.
driving and someone lets you go, you say
And I
thanks.
really hate, somebody lets me out, I always wave. And if I let somebody else out, I look for the wave. I would say I get it probably 50% of the time. And then when they don't wave, I'm just like, oh, you're welcome.
This is not legally required, but it's a
Obvious.
politeness thing. And not doing it can make you seem as rude, even if you didn't mean to be. And in smaller towns, this is even much more noticeable. And if you do it regularly, people will start to notice and remember. Now, the second thing relates to coffee culture. Australians take coffee very, very seriously. So if you walk into a cafe and order something completely unusual, like a triple caramel iced pumpkin latte in the middle of winter, you might get a polite smile, but behind it, they're thinking this person is a tourist. So here people tend to stick to the basics when it comes to coffee. A latte, a cappuccino, or a long black. And cafes here often specialize in coffee and not in having 40 syrup flavors. If you don't drink coffee, that's fine, but if you do, learning the local style makes you fit in instantly. I guess
Yeah,
it
here in America, we have a big coffee culture also. But like she was just saying, we have a million and one different flavors you can add to your coffee, depending on where you go. But we have a little like mom and pop type coffee shop here in town, and I like going there because it's quiet, it's cozy, they're not super busy, and they're not as expensive as like Starbucks.
it's one of those things that makes you feel like you're in the know. And yeah, 100%, I think some people will definitely judge you for your coffee choice. So much so that big coffee.
That reminds me, this was a few years back. We went through a Starbucks drive-through. One of my wife's friends was with us. She was in the back seat, and it came to her order, and she told me what it was. I told the person at the speaker, and then it was something crazy. I don't remember what it was, but it was, add 2 ounces of this and a half a shake of that and a clover of this and a sprinkle of that. And like, I thought she was messing with me, but the lady at the speaker knew exactly what it was. I said, nah.
Chains like Starbucks or others are not super popular here in Australia. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever, but here there's a very strong emphasis on coffee culture and specialty coffee.
Plus, I'm sure you have your own
Now, another
coffee
thing that
stores,
Aussies will
coffee
judge you
shops.
for relates to not treating customer service reps well. And this can be someone working at a retail, the waiter, waitress, or someone on the phone.
I
Or when
hate this. I hate when people do this because when I was younger, I worked in restaurant for many years. And I don't know if it's because of that or if it's just who I am, but when we go out in public now, when I see people treating servers or anybody in the service industry bad, like, I don't know, I get mad. and especially here because I think we're the only place like this. But our servers only make like $2 an hour. So when people are treating them like crap, like it's stupid. It like why? They're already going to a job that they probably don't want to do, and then they're making nothing for it.
Go to your medical appointment. Here, there's a strong culture around respecting customer service staff. So, if you go
Good.
to a restaurant, for example, Australians tend to not complain. For example, if the food wasn't great, they tend to not complain about it, or perhaps they don't even send it back.
Yeah, me
They're
neither.
not going to make a scene, but they're quietly not going to go back to the restaurant. That's it.
Exactly.
Also, if you're at a restaurant and you call people like, no, that's not right. That's super rude. Yeah, that's considered rude. And I'm saying
It
this
is rude.
because I've seen people from other cultures, including mine, especially perhaps older people, calling the waitress or waiter like this, and it's not nice. It's pretty frowned upon, so don't do it. Yeah, yelling at them or being rude or condescending doesn't come across well. Also, how you treat other people says a lot about you as well.
Exactly.
So. Now, another thing Aussies may judge you for, and this one sounds a bit counterintuitive if you know a lot about Australian culture, is that they're going to judge you if you wear thongs everywhere. There is an underlying understanding that in the Australian culture itself, it is
Thongs, those are your flip flops, right? Because yeah, thongs here are a very different thing.
common to wear thongs to most places. Yeah, it's something that's ingrained culturally, but there are boundaries as well. Yeah, so that doesn't mean that if you go to a wedding you can wear thongs, or if you go to work in an office, if you go to a nice restaurant, you should wear the appropriate attire and not thongs. There are boundaries that you
Right.
need to respect, and if you do go
As
to
with
a wedding
anything
wearing
in
thongs,
life.
I reckon that you're going to be judged for that. Wearing thongs everywhere can make people think that you're not really making an effort. Now, another thing that Aussies may judge you for, and this one I learned it very recently because I moved to a new house. This is an old unit, and now I'm learning about the rubbish collection system. So let me explain. Australians have a system for putting rubbish bins.
Look how little that bin is. Why is that thing so small? Ours are huge. Ours are kind of like the bigger one there.
For collection, usually once a week for general waste and every 2 weeks for recycling. If you put your bins out
Maybe it was
too
recycling.
early, like 2 days before, this can be seen as lazy, and leaving them out
But
for
yeah,
days.
here our recycling bins are the same size. Well, here where I live now, we don't even have recycling bins. They said it was too expensive to recycle, which is kind of crazy because when I lived in the next town over, we had recycling.
Afterwards, that's also going to get you noticed. And I'm realizing that now. Every time that we put our bins out, there's always a few people that leave their bins out there for, I don't know, more than 3-4 days. It's insane. They just don't collect it. And
I do this in my neighborhood. When I look across the street or I'll see my neighbor's bin out or something, and I'm like, trash day was 3 days ago. What are you doing?
you naturally think about these people. What's wrong with them? Are they lazy? Aren't they home? Of course, they might have a good reason, but it's interesting how your perception changes around that. So yeah, and of course, each bin has the unit number, so you can see who left it behind, right? So I think there's a bit of judgment around that, and I'm guilty of that as well. And another interesting thing is that in many suburbs, neighbors actually help each other with bins, and if they see yours still out, they might roll it back in for you. But if you do it often, meaning if you leave it out for a long time, again, this may become like a silent conversation about that neighbor who never brings their bin in. So yeah, that's another thing, being etiquette. That's something that really caught my attention, especially now that I live in a unit and now I understand what the deal is. Now, another thing Aussies may judge you for relates to not bringing anything to a barbecue or to a gathering. So, if you're invited to someone's house,
I feel like this is things that the whole world judges you for, because same thing. We go to we call them cookouts in the summertime. We go to cookouts, and it's expected that everybody brings something, and we always take stuff when we're not the host. And when we are the host, it drives me crazy when people show up with nothing, or they'll show up with, I don't know, one of those little tiny bags of potato chips or crisps. I'm not sure which one you call it, but it's just a small bag for one person. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Whether it is for a barbecue or for a get together, it's almost always expected that you bring something, whether it is a drink, a salad, dessert, or bread rolls. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but
Right,
showing
just
up empty handed feels a bit off.
right.
The
Just take
barbecue
something
culture here and the get togethers are
for
all
more
about
than just yourself.
sharing. The host might provide the meat, but guests help fill the table. So it's an easy way to show that you appreciate the invitation, and people will notice if you don't. Yeah, so if you go to a get together, if you go to a gathering, always ask the host, oh, what can I bring? And even if they say don't bring anything, still bring
Right.
something. Yeah. Now, speaking of this, there's another factor that Aussies may judge you for, and this is overcomplicating the barbecue. A barbecue here in Australia often involves sausages, burgers, maybe some steaks, plus sides. But if you show up with a 3-course gourmet meal that requires instructions and a step-by-step procedure, people might think that you've misunderstood the assignment. And this is not to say that Aussies don't appreciate nice food, because they do, but this talks a bit more about the Aussie culture. The emphasis that they place on a laid-back lifestyle, and the barbecue's charm is that this is a casual atmosphere.
Yeah, I've never had this problem. I had the other problem where people just show up with nothing. So I definitely didn't have the problem with them showing up with, too complicated of stuff.
A casual get together, you don't have to overcomplicate it. So if you make it too fancy, it might take away from that relaxed atmosphere. Another thing Aussies will judge you for, and this is a pretty big one, cutting the line. This is an unspoken rule, but of course it's good manners.
I seen a video for the UK also where they talk about cutting the line. I feel like that's just normal, good manners anywhere.
I like to think globally, but here there's a lot of...
I mean, is there a place out there where there's just no line, where people just run up and bombard whatever you're lining up for? When I said that, the image of Black Friday from America popped in my head. So maybe
emphasis on that, cutting the line. If you cut the line, if you don't wait for your turn, you're going to get a lot of stares. Perhaps no one will tell you off, but it's considered extremely rude. Yeah, same with pushing in public transport, etc. I talked about this in many other videos, but it's a good reminder again about public transport etiquette, or etiquette and basic social norms in public spaces.
Yeah, if you're cutting the line, you should be judged.
Another thing Aussies will judge you for, if you brag about how much money you have, about anything that conveys
Tall
status.
puppy syndrome.
People here tend to be pretty simple, and if they are people who are actually in a very good financial position, no one is going to really brag about it, yeah? You can talk about money, but not about how much you earn, unless you're with close friends and you're talking about your finances and you want financial advice, etc. We do discuss money a lot with my friends, but it's not about bragging or look at how much money I made, or wearing fancy clothes or a fancy car. Yeah, people again really value a casual lifestyle, so behaving in an arrogant or cocky way is very much frowned upon.
I was always
People
taught or
here
told, when speaking about money or different things, to always speak up. So if you got a lot of money, you don't want to talk to somebody about how much money you have to somebody that makes less money, if that makes sense. Like, you always want to speak up to where you're the one that's making the lesser of the money. That way it's not really bragging or showing off.
Value humility,
but I could
that
see
is
people doing
being
that.
humble, and again, not showing off. So again, these little things are not going to ruin your friendships, but they do shape first impressions.
Right.
So picking up on them
Might
is
not make
part
any
of the
friends.
process of learning how life works here. And once you get them, that's going to make it so much easier for you to fit in. So what would you include in this list? Let me know in the comments below, especially if you've been living here for a while. And if you want to watch more videos about Australian culture and learn how life works here, I highly recommend watching these videos here and here. And if you like this video, please...
That was interesting. Yeah, and like I said, I agree. I think a lot of that is worldwide, or should be. Don't cut line, no matter where you are. Take your trash can in, no matter where you are. But yeah, super cool, super interesting. It's good checking out Australia. It's actually fun learning about all these different countries, because while we do have things in common, like this should be in common with everybody, there is a lot of stuff that we all do very different. And it's super fun learning about like all the differences. But yeah, thanks for watching this with me, and I hope to see you in the next one.